All right, I want to talk about sweetness, which is related to not only to flavor but also to health. Obviously, you know, the better tasting a vegetable and that pleasure that we experience, it's a sign also that that's being accepted by our body by our body as something healthy. So carrots are a specific one I want to focus on. Why do we experience, or we seem to have the instinct that a carrot like this is going to be more tasty than one like that? The reason is botanical, actually. I'm going to show it to you by cutting through them. You see, inside a carrot, I'm going to cut it so that it stands still. Sorry, with one hand. There are two type of vessels that bring liquids up and down. This in the middle, in the case of a carrot, is called the xylem. It exists in all plants, but in the carrot case, it's in the middle of the root, and it brings water. So it's not particularly sweet, it's just watery, and sometimes you get woody because the cells that make up these channels that go through, so into the carrot and up and down the roots in this direction. In fact, most of them have movement going up the carrot because they bring water to the leaves for photosynthesis to work. And most of the cells that make up those vessels, which are microscopic obviously, they are dead. So they are woodier and more fibrous, and you can see the fiber there. Whereas the outside rings, if you want, so the channels that go up and down in this case, in this area, which is distinctly more dense or slightly different texture, they bring sugars down from the leaf to all the parts of the plant that need sugar. So some of them will stay in the leaves, some of them will go down to the roots, some of them will go into the stem and stuff like that. So this part of the carrot is sweeter. Now, when you have a chunky carrot like that, often, but not always, there is a lot more core in proportion to the outer ring. In a carrot that is smaller like that, you see that in proportion there is more outside phloem, so more sugary tissue, and less watery or dead fibrous tissue. That's why a carrot like this is often sweeter than a carrot like that. Now, it's not always the case, because some of these big carrots are varieties that have been bred to grow in clay, and so they're chunky, but they're still very, very sweet. So they've got very narrow, very thin core. It's not the case of this. This was a carrot meant to be normal, thin and long, but it went a bit chunky for some reason, and so now it's not going to be as sweet. Or if you want to get the sweet part, you have to remove the core and treat the core differently, like in a soup, and the outside you can use in a salad. Now, how does that apply to beetroot? It doesn't work the same for beetroot. A lot of people think a small beetroot is going to be tastier than a big one, but that's not the case at all. Let me show you why. And this is a very good variety to show you that. Let me just do it with the other hand as well. Sorry, you're going to see something that doesn't make any sense for a minute. There you go. So this shows that in the case of the beetroot, there isn't an inner core and then an outer sweeter part. The xylem and the phloem are alternating. So whenever you eat a slice of a beetroot, whether it's a small one or a giant one as big as a head, it's going to have the same amount of sweetness. It might have a little bit slightly different amount of fiber in the case of the very, very big ones. But again, in our experience, the varieties that are cultivated nowadays have got very little fiber, even in the bigger case, and the sweetness is the same because the outer and the inner parts are distributed around the actual root. So whether it's a chunky or a thin one, it matters for a carrot, but it doesn't matter so much for a beetroot. I hope that explains it.